This is R2D Tech and we're back again with another exciting video, and this one's going to be all about the feasibility of switching to a Blackberry Classic in 2021, so stay tuned. If you watched the last video, you'll know that I'm currently using this iPhone 6s and it's been serving me quite well as well with the latest iOS 14, and so switching to something like the Blackberry Classic would be a huge downgrade, but it's something that I'm seriously considering. I think it's pretty obvious nowadays in 2021 that without a smartphone you don't really get very far in everyday life, just because you need it for everything. Like even some bus tickets are now online just on apps, so it would be pretty hard to get around without a smartphone. The other main reason that I can think of for why it would be really difficult to switch to a Blackberry Classic is that everyone I know communicates using WhatsApp. Nobody really uses text message or even calls anymore, which means that if I did switch to a Blackberry Classic, I'd kind of be out of the loop of almost everything that goes on. Since WhatsApp is so key to me and probably a lot of people out there, I did some extra digging and found that you can actually download WhatsApp as an APK onto the Blackberry Classic, provided you have the correct model. And the model I have here in this very stylish leather case, which I actually used for quite a long time, is the Blackberry Classic where you can download APKs. So it does actually look pretty modern by design, you can see. Obviously it has that really nice physical keyboard, but it's out of battery now, so I won't try and power it on. But you can actually use APKs because this runs a version of Android, I believe. And so I actually tried it and you can use WhatsApp on this. What I did find though is that even though technically yes you can use WhatsApp on the Blackberry Classic, there were a few issues. The main ones being that when I got a notification, or when somebody sent me a message on WhatsApp, a lot of the time it wouldn't show up as a notification even though I had that setting turned on. So I would only see the message when I went into the actual app. The other problem is that the interface was a bit laggy, which kind of annoys me in 2021. The other main elephant in the room here is that physical keyboard. And I know that back in the day, it was really easy to type fast on those things. But now that I'm so used to typing on a touchscreen like on the iPhone 6s, I find it almost impossible to go back and use that physical keyboard with any normal pace of typing, especially since you have to hit the shift key if you want to do a capital letter, or like shift and then like comma and stuff, which seems absolutely ridiculous nowadays where you just touch one button on the screen and it does it for you. But it is actually quite a big issue if you want to type fast. The other thing with that keyboard, which is less of an issue on this Blackberry Classic, but more of an issue on this much older Blackberry, is that the keys are actually pretty small and close together, so it's not too hard to accidentally press the key next to the one that you're trying to press, which can get annoying over time as well. So again, not so much of an issue on this more modern Blackberry Classic, but definitely an issue on this ancient Blackberry over here. Both of which, by the way, I actually used for a substantial period of time in the past. Apart from that WhatsApp and rapid messaging sort of setback on the Blackberry, the other thing that comes to mind straight away is just the variety of apps that you can get on a smartphone nowadays, which help you in your day-to-day life. So I use the Apple Wallet a lot to store all of my cards, but also I have lots of fitness tracking apps on my phone. My phone's also connected to my Apple Watch, which I find really useful to help track my exercise as well. So there's just so much connectivity with a smartphone and other wearable devices, which you definitely don't get on something like the Blackberry Classic. And I would really miss that if I had to switch to this Blackberry. I mean, even as simple as Spotify, which I believe you can actually get on this Blackberry Classic as an APK, it just doesn't really work that well. In fact, I've tried that on this Blackberry Classic in the past, and the main issue was trying to connect to Bluetooth earphones like my AirPods using the Blackberry, where it would just not connect sometimes, and occasionally it would, but then the data just wouldn't work, so there'd be so many issues, especially since Spotify don't really make their app tailored to this old Blackberry experience, so they don't really update it to suit this phone, which does mean that a lot of the time it will just crash and not work properly, which can be really frustrating. So those were the main drawbacks. I could probably throw a couple more onto there in terms of hardware, like the speakers are pretty rubbish. Also, the battery life isn't that great, and the main one is the display is pretty tiny by today's standards, so you couldn't really do much. I mean, even if you could, and you might be able to download YouTube as an APK, I doubt you'll be watching any videos on here for at least more than 5 minutes. Not to mention that the camera on this thing definitely isn't going to get you any photography awards anytime soon. On the bright side though, because yes, there is an upside to this whole thing, there are a couple of things that would actually make me want to switch to a phone like this in 2021. The first one being is that there's no denying this is a very stylish phone along with that leather case. When you put it in the case, it feels very premium, especially compared to some of the phones that come out nowadays. I mean, this thing is also pretty rugged and hefty. If someone tried to mug you, you'd probably just throw this at them and it would knock them out, and probably be fine afterwards as well. Not to say that I'm recommending anything of that nature, but I'm just saying it's a possibility. The other, probably more sensible reason for making a downgrade like this, which it definitely is that you're less connected. And I talked about that as a negative before because you want to be connected, you want to have everything on your phone. Or do you? I mean, being less connected is a lot less tiring. You don't constantly get notifications from random apps. You have a lot less to think about, which can be a lot better psychologically as well in the long term. So that's definitely something to consider. I'm not saying it's easy, it's definitely something which I would have to think really carefully about doing, because it would really affect my day-to-day life not being able to use a proper smartphone, but it's definitely something to consider as an option. Personally, I'm someone that uses basically the entire spectrum of apps that you could think of. I use fitness apps, I use WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Snapchat, TikTok, as shameful as that might be. So there's a lot of stuff that I would be missing out on if I did make the switch to this phone for even a few days. But what I want to know is, do you want me to do this? Because if you guys message in the comments and there's enough comments saying that you want me to switch to this Blackberry Classic for like a week or maybe even a month, then I'll do it. But I mean, it would have to be more than just like 2 or 3 people. It would have to be a fair amount, because making this switch would be extremely difficult for me. On the plus side though, it could be something really healthy to try out, and maybe I'll do it anyway just for a week at some point in the future, just to see what it would be like. Who knows, maybe that really nice clicky keyboard, which I'll put up to the mic, will make the whole thing worth it. I highly doubt it, but it's a possibility. Anyway, hopefully that was a bit of a fun video for everyone. If you want me to go more into this in a future video, perhaps even onto the software of this phone in a bit more in depth, then definitely let me know in the comments. And if you want me to switch this phone, then definitely let me know as well below in the comments section. If you liked the video, then please leave a thumbs up, and if you loved it and you want to see more content like this in the future, then smash that subscribe button and notification bar below.